side of stage 2 is that, well, there's not too much that's changed up. This is one of the squads, and one of the sole squads actually, ended up keeping their entire roster between stage 1 and stage 2, so no change up in that regard. They also went to the 6 Invitational recently and had some decent showings there. They actually had quite a few good clubhouses, actually, believe it or not. Actually up against, I believe, Empire as well as Makers. They ended up losing clubhouse up against TSM, obviously a local squad there, but they also beat X at a while back here as well. So in recent history, truly only losing to TSM at SI. Besides that, perfect track record.
Fans are not surprising us too much so far here, save for the Zofia getting knocked out there. That'll be an interesting choice, but one that makes sense considering the prevalence of soft breach and Zofia play in general. Going to definitely make our teams a little bit more uncomfortable. Save from that, though, everything else aligning with what we have seen in the past, especially on the defensive side with Mira and Wamai getting knocked out yet again.
Okay, well, looking across the board here and what has happened with these bans, the Habana ban and Wamai ban coming out for Mirage. This is going to be the 4th time that they have banned Habana here, but as for their defense, we have not been seeing Wamai bans from them at all. Actually, it's been Maestro that they have been targeting mostly on Clubhouse, as well, they've banned him out 3 times as well. So, well, my ban going to be new for them, but switching gears, as you were talking about with that Zofia and Mira coming in for Oxygen, well, their offenses have mostly centralized around soft destruction from the start. It just seems as though this will be the first time that they will be shifting things over to Zofia, previously banning Ashe 3 times as well as Sledge a singular time.
Not to mention, of course, we have the Flores pick potential to come in there. Not this time, of course, as it'll get 6 picked away over towards the Buck instead there for Laxing, but that's another option they have to somewhat fulfill that role as well, at least when it comes to dealing with specific utility pieces and trying to force players out of position. Save from that, though, taking a look at Mirage here, they're going to be going for the CCTV and cash defense. Defender lineup not looking too far out of the ordinary, and I believe that the reinforcement and utility lineup is going to reflect that pretty well here also.
Seemingly the case, my friend, is, well, fairly straightforward so far for Mirage, especially inside of the garage area. I believe Benji's more than likely going to have the FMG9 on. Yes, he will. So be aggressive towards the garage door initially before he runs back to Rafters, just trying to find some drones for himself. But besides that, this is relatively straightforward clubhouse. Yeah, we're going to have the Kaid to deny walls, Valkyrie cams outside, mute jammers for the rest of it, and then tied up with a nice bow with quartz on the Jaeger. We'll see what they'll be able to produce, but as we look at Oxygen, what they bring to the table, the big thing that's standing out to me here has got to be Laxing on this Buck. Are they looking for the vertical play down low inside of Lounge and Stock? Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll be finding out more about that probably in the next minute or two after some of that initial controls goes over to Oxygen. But the real story here is that extended game from Mirage, Nick specifically, with some play to come out from the back side entrance against anyone in the front. Not sure if he's going to see it now as there's a player sprinting towards the front door. The problem is that player's moving a little bit too quickly, I think, for Nyx to be able to appropriately react to that. So he's going to be sticking in his current position for the time being, and he's sticking there for a while until another opportunity presents itself to him.
Well, early days so far here inside of round 1. No one wanting to overstep and end up losing the initial body here inside of our initial round. Mirage, not too worse for wear as of right now, especially in the utility department. They haven't been stretched at all. Oxygen have at least gotten the wall open for Plat, so that's the first checked box done. So have to consider Garage and Benji's positioning in here, but that's more than likely going to come later. Still very concerned as to what could happen with Nyx on the far side of the map here, as obviously he has gone unchecked. He's now skippered off down low, could possibly have a flank up secret coming anytime soon, but he's going to have to be concerned here as, yep, that was what I was fearful of. Yaga actually ends up getting a frag across the map. That's going to be on Plat all the way into Garage, and that's essentially going to open up the floodgates on this one.
Slow and steady on the execute here for OXG, and with good reason behind that too. Some out and about positions that Mirage are trying to utilize to catch OXG off guard, but it's just not happening right now, save for that. A little bit of chip damage done to Foxe and Yogg earlier in the round. We are, however, in the last minute. Mirage is in sight defense, save for the actual balcony opening. Hasn't been touched that heavily here, so there's still possibility for Mirage to hold on that final execute, relying on their utility. Important to mention as well, look at the defender utility, still 3 nitro cells available, so there's a lot of playback that could come in from there. Dream sneaking off a kill from down below. The problem is, though, not going to expect the refrag to come from Vertical over here at blue. Vertical, though, pinching himself into a corner. That reload is so lengthy, and he falls victim to it as Nick's also able to trade, but his head just barely popping out above the banister next to Red Stairs, allowing for Kino to trade it right back and leave Quartz as the sole player standing now for Mirage. It's a 1v3. He's got a bit of a vertical angle here from the top of the table, but no one being revealed from the OXG roster. It seems like they have solid control over this post plant, but we'll see the push from Quartz regardless as he tries to look for something to get back into this round. It's just not going to happen, and OXG take great control over the first one.
Oh, Kino showing you exactly why he was so influential for this squad inside of stage 1. The Fragmite coming out once again for Oxygen as a very patient round throughout most of that one. They end up getting a freebie on the garage player, and they end up using that obviously to get a plant down. There really wasn't anything past that. Yeah, we saw Mirage try and contest some different areas. They try and eventually retake Lounge down low. They'll get Vertical for that, but past that, not too much. We saw Nyx on the extended roam. Only got some insight from his camera outside, was not able to get a successful flank off. Instead, truthfully, just wasting time across the building, not really able to get anything to happen with that, which is very sad. I thought that there was something that was at least going to be, whether it be, you know, an impactful frag down low onto Laxing or something like that. That's what I was hoping for, but that is surely not what we got.
Yeah, so OXG, more than anything, in my opinion, just with better control over the more chaotic scenarios that go down in that round, and especially the moment-to-moment trading that was going on, take that 3v1 at the end of it and have an easy time in post-plant securing their first round. Might not be so easy on the second one, though, as Mirage are going to shift over towards the gym and bedroom hold. And before anybody freaks out about it, yes, we do have a Frost pick, but for anyone who has been following the meta, you'll know that this isn't honestly that surprising anymore. In fact, she's become nearly a mainstay on this site now for quite a few teams.
And honestly, if you know, if your name's Chala, I guess it's also like the all-star pick
like
as well.
In general.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, I put a tweet out earlier. It was like, if you aren't using the 1.5 times scope, you're practically trolling. And this is one of those situations where that's absolutely the case. The 1.5 on this SMG is just such a solid gun overall. And for these, you know, people that are just head seekers like Chala, it can definitely be the weapon of choice. That 1.5 just provides the perfect bead to just start clicking heads. We'll see if loading can try and produce similar results. As for the rest of Mirage and their overarching plan for this round, it is going to be a master defense, and obviously signified from that Frost play that we were talking about, but it's extended over towards Cash. Malusi going to be along for the ride on this one. As for the rest of it, fairly straightforward. Mute for the walls, including things inside of Cash, as well as Jacuzzi, and, well, Benji on the Jaeger, the mainstay ADS savant himself.
And you just kind of shooting away those cash piles there. Doesn't want a drone or anything else be hitting it in the late round there. So not really much else for him to do at this point in the round anyway. They're kind of just waiting for OXG to make the first move here, especially with the extended pressure that they have. Now, OXG is already in the process of putting that pressure on Mirage, specifically on the inside of Cash. That's what Benji's doing here, watching out over top to make sure the additional utility is properly utilized and Nick doesn't have that extra pressure from behind him, more than anything if those walls get breached. Away from that, though, Laxing also going to be doing some detailing on the floor below Nyx and his teammate here, making it a little bit less secure to hold on. But as you guys are going to notice, is not necessarily going to immediately push him into the open. Nyx still has plenty of room to play around. That will start to go away even more so now, as we're going to see the Maverick wall begin to open up. Benji strikes first, though, and on top of that, Yogg did go down from the spray from Nyx. So that's actually 2 players on the floor for OXG. None have been traded out right now.
That's a huge deal right now for Oxygen, losing Kino early on, no longer having hard destruction. Yaga now down. They still have Foxe with the torch, and he'll be able to cut some lines into Cash. But Nyx finding safe harbor now, destroying every single drone that enters the room, making it such a huge issue for Oxygen as of right now. Able to find some space, but not able to get him. Oh, Vertical can't find it. But Foxe, luckily enough, will tag up Nyx, finally securing the kill and rezzing Yaga into the 4v4, but Mirage's game plan has already been executed damn near perfectly. They've delayed so much time. It's a 4v4 with not much map control for OXG with 30 seconds remaining.
See Vert just trying to crouch up and down there, hoping he would get an angle in the transition, but not so easy. Thankfully, a teammate handles it for him. Mirage now swiftly rotating back over towards the site to play out these last 20 seconds here. Really just a matter of delaying out the time. Yeah, you can see that nice lineup from one of Mirage's members deep inside of Logi. Either way, you can see this from Auction. They don't have time to get this whole wall open. They've got to go in, and they need to go now. Mirage, two of their players going to get pinched. Will they both go down? It's an absolute mess right now, and we're going to see Mirage clean up the large majority of it. Foxy, the only one left. He does not even have access to an opening of this wall, so the timer will run out, and Mirage will get the traded round, tying us up at 1-1.
Yeah, Logi was just painted red with oxygen right there. That was insanity going down inside of that with the M5 and everything else. But either way, Mirage just really jetting ahead early on inside of that round, especially the big pickup on Kino, obviously limiting the potential hard breach that they had for that map. Foxy doing his absolute best there. He did what had to be done. He started putting pressure onto Nyx, but we saw how that started to work out. Nyx did a bang-up job of holding on to Cash, not only delaying time, but also dealing damage across the board, and that's exactly what you need to be doing inside of that scenario. So very well executed there from Mirage to pull that off and already get their first defense up and onto the board. Now into round 3 as we'll be headed towards the basement.
Gonna be the old reliable site here for Mirage now, as this seems to be where defenders always find so much solidity inside of this map and more simplicity, sometimes more than anything else in the strategy here, as it allows the team to play pretty securely just on the site with only slight extensions around the staircases usually. There is, of course, another way you can play into this. It's called the SSG roam, but it's a very rare treat that we get to see teams play into that save from SSG, especially in more recent times. So very likely we're going to get that. Just expect the usual turtle hold to come out here, I would say, from Mirage.
Well, it's to be expected, especially with a site like this. I think the big thing that's standing out to me as of right now is obviously zero impacts. We did have the Habana banned, as we all know. Nowadays, she is the queen of hatches, even more so now, rather than she used to be. Obviously, always used for that avenue of attack, but now even better with the way that Ubisoft has changed up her kit to allow you to select the amount of pellets that you want to use per shot. So, actually, that ban going to matter quite a bit when it comes down to it. That's why we will see the Maverick and the Thatcher paired together throughout this map, more than likely by both sides, unless we have an ace sneak in here for some other reason. But Thermite and obviously Maverick strong enough to be able to do this by themselves, but the issue is you have to be concerned with what happens inside of Kitchen, especially for Thermite's sake. Lots of explosives down low could end up getting him killed, or just some off angles from opening things up vertically could obviously run the risk of losing someone early on. But that's up to Oxygen to try and solve now as well. The assault from the mid floor begins.
Yeah, once again, not a whole lot going to be going on here action-wise within the first minute or two. Mirage choosing to play things back just like they did in the previous round will not open up a lot of opportunities for them to try and do anything against Oxygen without providing too much risk to their own players. So they're just going to be sitting back, waiting for OXG to start opening up the floorboards, as we were seeing Laxing and the rest of the team do, specifically around Kitchen a moment ago. We'll get another glimpse of that now, as Laxing's going to be opening up everything around the hatch to make sure it's as easy of a job as possible to get that open, should they decide to do so, which, here we go. It's going to come in from Kino right now. A slight off-site footing there. Not going to get the hatch, but does open up more of the top-down view.
They nitroed it.
Oh, that's what I... Okay.
Yeah, so the when you set it exothermic off, it actually puts the lights through the, like, whatever surface you're on. So it put it through the floor. He nitroed it, and that's what they were going for. It's kind of like, you know when they try to blow the bottom of walls by putting it on the floor? It's the exact same premise. If it's within, like, a certain distance from the thermite charge, it blows up whatever it's next to. And if it happens to be a hatch, it'll blow open the entire thing, which is pretty damn cool. So nice usage there by Oxygen to completely avoid the electro claw of loading, but they still have to actually force themselves into sight.
Yeah, using both of their hard breach utility pieces in order to do that as well.
Oh
Foxy still has a little bit to bring to the table.
What?
What just happened? Vertical killed Foxy with his own grenade, and Benji as well. Another player from Mirage dropped, so Oxygen does have the player advantage, but only slightly as they move in here. Vert tries to push it a little further, but instead Loading evens it back out. Ruts just before Laxing pushes in through the church entry and takes down Loading to give it back to them. First plant attempt going down now, but it's almost just as quickly canceled by Kino. Laxing able to line up yet another frag opportunity for the squad, and Yogg cleans it up as OXG take the third round.
That was so well done by Oxygen there. They start to force Blue, draw the attention of the defenders towards that area, then slip the planter right in deep inside of Armory along with the Ash main. So fantastic plays from Oxygen to get that to go down, and great breakup of Kitchen overall. Fully utilizing that thermite and getting that hatch open, as well as what we saw from Foxay with the others and his entry. So Oxygen now with the lead here on offense. Mirage having an opportunity inside of that round, especially with that big misplay happening with the frag grenade from Vertical, but just was not enough to pull it over the line.
They feel it was close enough to at least make another attempt at that, though, so they're going to dive right back into this site. I believe the same operator lineup as well, so should not expect too many changes to the overall strategy here from Mirage. Probably going to need to see some change-ups, though, to their capability to take these early fights. OXG show up almost suddenly with that drop into the site, and Mirage just did not seem ready to take on the challenge as things devolve very quickly. So hopefully they're able to get better control of all that chaos in the final execute in order to net themselves a win, as if not, OXG is going to be pushing ahead in a big way on the attacking side of Clubhouse at 3-1.
That would be a huge issue for Mirage moving on down the line, as obviously we've had some pretty serious bans when it comes down to it, limiting the offense's potential. But Oxygen working so very well regarding those parameters, especially with Vertical. You know, obviously not bringing in those big numbers, but able to at least get trades and things along those lines, although did end up trading out one of his own teammates instead of that last round. But hey, things happen inside of Siege. As you said, Mirage going to be headed back downstairs. We're not going to see a huge change up inside of the game plan. Still the deployable shields out. They don't want to try and impact anything, it seems like, especially with the way that Oxygen ended up getting that exothermic to go off previously. Very surprised we didn't see a change up inside of that utility, but obviously Mirage have other things in mind.
Foxay going to be on hatch duty once again here, as he's got to split it a little bit with Kino due to the awkward nature of not having the Habana to take care of things a little bit more easily. Some pre-fire coming out from both the Mirage members here to try to catch Foxay just as he opens up the hatch, but neither of them getting lucky under those circumstances, so it will remain at full HP. Other than that, though, this is the same chain of events that we witnessed on the previous round here. You're going to see Laxing spending this next minute or so opening up all the top-down angles he can along that main hallway, outside of and inside the kitchen itself, before they eventually open up that hatch and begin the drop once again.
Well, multiple difficult angles now for Mirage to work around, especially with how the skeleton key is being worked by Laxing, opening up most of the hallway wall here for Deep Armory. This is going to force Mirage up closer to the boxes area, as well as Blue and Church, so we'll see how they try and wrap this about. Obviously still in a 5v5, as no one's been too forceful towards site. Loading taking some damage, but things starting to heat up over on the Armory side of things. As we said before, the skeleton key starting to pop open the wall, but they still need to get the vertical play going down. The exothermic now starting to go out here. This should get the hatch. Quartz isn't going to have time either, can't shoot it. Cross angles holding him back in towards the dirt area, so he'll be locked up and boxed out as Oxygen will get a hold of this kitchen hatch.
Mixing with some early drone intel there onto, I believe, Loading's position, but he's moving too much. They're not really going to be able to react to that anytime soon. Foxay might have some actionable intel coming from that, but more than likely it's going to be far too long before the actual execute rolls through. They still have this extra 25 seconds of bleed out time if they want to continue to look for more drone intel, but here comes the problem. Defenders are also going to start executing their own remaining utility. We can see Dream throwing out 2 of those gas grenades. One left. Oh, a slight mistake from Foxay. Thankfully won't affect him too much on the damage side of things, but they have lost the first player. Now 2, as both Vertical and Yogg have gone down upon trying to make first contact. Foxay walking right up, thinks he's going to surprise Dream, but no, he's very much ready for that push. Also going to see another member of OXG go down as a result of that. No one else seems to have a path forward here. Laxing will be the last bastion of hope. He gets 1 for himself. Can he get 2? No. Loading immediately exchanges that, and Molkino has completed a drop downstairs. He's in a 1v4 with 5 seconds left. That's a good shot. That's a good follow-up, but ultimately can't survive the onslaught coming in towards that room, and we will finally see another round picked up by Mirage.
Extremely unfortunate circumstances there for Oxygen. They're able to get some control deep inside of Armory, but they can't abuse the cross exactly how they want to, especially with Mirage still holding on to Church. Obviously with the wall broken open the way that they had it, looking towards the kitchen hatch, anybody that drops down that is at risk of dying, and well, they were able to get Kino downstairs, but not anyone else. We immediately see the kitchen player get taken out. Foxay has to try for something risky Husky up the main hallway. He's not able to take down the smoke, and to be completely honest with you, he would have been immediately traded if he would have gotten it anyways, so that really wouldn't have mattered. That just really seemed like a Mirage round overall once the kills started falling into their pockets.
Yeah, not losing too much in that early engagement once again as well, coming out on top of both of those initial fights, so a much better stance being put up by Mirage. Seems like they immediately knew what the issues were after the initial play on Basement and had a very solid plan to correct things on the fourth round. Definitely rung true when you see the results of the round fold out before us there. That's going to tie us up at 2-2. Gotta be honest about it though, Mirage still needs to pick things up in these last two rounds. You do not want to be going onto the attacking side, especially as Stokes mentioned earlier with the bans we currently have in play with a 3-3 scoreline.
Yeah, Clubhouse actually at the 6 Invitational this year was the highest defensive win rate map across the board, all except for, get this, Villa. Villa 63%. Clubhouse, excuse me, 60% overall. So those two obviously well into the defensive favor. So this is a big deal right now for Mirage if they're able to equalize here. Or not equalize, excuse me. Get to a tied point here at 3.
Either way, push themselves forward and get that tie point at minimum for the half. Obviously, 4-2 would be optimal, and we are seeing a slight rebound come in for Mirage, but this is a site they have not been able to win for themselves just as of yet. And to be fair to them, I've only attempted it once, so we'll see if they can also make the corrections here that were done on the Basement. Regardless, though, no form of wall denial coming out for Mirage, so Oxygen are going to carve their way into balcony only a couple seconds into the round. Just a simple matter of putting the charge and blowing it up, not much past that. So that's step 1 done for Oxygen, leaving them the full 2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining to focus on their garage push, possible construction access, whatever they want to go for here. What is this? There's no one watching CCTV. Foxay just walks right in and kills Benji on the garage catwalk. Foxay gets another pick as well. It does look like he'll get traded at least into a down state there, but still, that's a possible 5v3, 4v3 at its worst. No, it's getting even worse now. Kino with another pickup against Loading, and just like that, only a minute into the round, we are down to Nyx and Quartz defending against the world.
And that right there is how you abuse pacing, folks. Every single person inside of this lobby right now is a professional player, and Foxay simply walked through the breach and took out 2 members of Mirage. Somebody has got to be watching those angles, John. Sometimes this is fundamentals, man. That's how you lose these games. Somebody's not paying attention to the breach, and somebody simply waltzes on in and takes out 2 of your members. Oxygen, the first one to the halfway point here inside of this round. They'll have the opportunity to obviously go up 4-2 here, unless Mirage have something to say about it. But that round is so extremely quick, and I wanted to touch on this very quickly as well. Obviously, that wall getting blown open extremely early on into this round, almost like there was no, prevention at all. But in fact, there was. Loading was in fact playing Kaid inside of that round, and Dream had mute as well. So that wall gets blown sky high almost immediately, whether it be through IQ or frag grenades or what have you. Oxygen are able to immediately capitalize on Mirage not paying attention to what's happening right in their own backyard.
Be curious to watch that on the replay itself from the POV of one of the players watching Red. Very curious to see if he just snuck right past because no one was watching, or if he got lucky and made it through with a player missing shots or something else. I didn't hear any bullets ring out prior to that, so I think he snuck right through, but definitely one for the replay to take a look at later on. Either way, a very successful play from Oxygen that steals another round right out of the hands of Mirage and puts them in a great position regardless of the outcome of this round going into their second half. If they can solidify a 4-2 for attack, they're going to be feeling very confident about themselves when it's time to jump onto that defensive half. Here's the issue, though. This did look like a very solid defense for Mirage the last time this site was played. You've got the Frost to deal with once again. You've got the excellent time-wasting capabilities that we already saw back in round 2, as well as the fact that Oxygen are going to have to still find some way to get onto this site, which they failed outright on doing on the last attempt.
Yeah, it was extremely problematic for them, but I feel as though with what happened inside of that previous round that they're more than likely better off this time around. Especially in Kino's case, we saw him get picked up extremely early. That's one of his 2 deaths, was that opening frag that Mirage were able to procure, and that ended up getting them this round as well. No heart breach there, all except for the torch. They had to cut some lines, and we saw what happened with Nyx inside of that one, able to get quite a few frags and really caused some issues for OXG. Now, though, for Oxygen, already working their way into CCTV. You have the opportunity here to get some damage, at least for Nyx's case, as he'll be manning the drone hole as of right now. Still has Benji in tow to be able to assist him with the door, but this is more than likely going to go by a lot quicker than we saw previously. Already some torch lines going down, although Nyx does have some impact if it goes beyond that. And that's the beauty of the denial here for Nyx. You can get rid of a lot of these exothermics that could possibly be abused by Oxygen.
Nick's still doing a good job at wasting the time, though, moving every time a drone spots him out, and obviously with not anywhere near a large enough hole in order to figure out either of these players' positions, Fox is going to continue to hunt for those opportunities. Finally, Nyx is forced into the open, though, and it plays into the favor of Yogg. Benji and the rest of Mirage are immediately going to pull back to the site. They know they've been beaten here. They know they can't risk the additional gunfight to possibly go down to a 3v5, especially when you consider what happened in the last round. So now time to play hard locked into our defense and hope we can just drain out the remaining time like they did on round 2.
And now for Oxygen. With that being said, I'm going to take over cash and need to start working on the balcony. And actually, that's exactly what we're going to see Kino doing. They need these counter angles to assist and possibly make some of these positions impossible to play for Mirage, including these rotations into bathroom. It's very risky for Kino to have to continue to swing these, but obviously he has to be the one to do it. Can't necessarily rotate across and get Jacuzzi just yet unless somebody's able to get that mute jammer off. So his job is simply waiting to see what Mirage are going to do actively inside of sight. As for the rest of them, though, they're starting to pressure in through construction. Have a swing. Yaga gets one. Yaga can't follow through with the second, but Foxy's good for it from the roof. The saving grace, the guardian angel, hopping down into the hatch. Yet another one will be procured by the offense. It's all down to loading inside of a 1v3. He's getting forced out, though, as Foxy makes mincemeat of him with this M4. So strong so far on the Maverick.
Good attempts there from loading to try to play the positioning a bit more varied and try to separate those gunfights as much as he humanly could, but just not an easy task at that point when your numbers are stacked so far against you. So the worst case scenario for Mirage does really come true here. They're now stacked against them in terms of a scoreline. Oxygen have 4 rounds coming off of their attacking side. If the defense is anywhere near as solid, we could be looking at a very quick run here in the second half for them to try and claim the match and an additional 3 points in the league. Let's find out if that'll be true. They'll be going immediately down to the basement for the initial defense, and we've got an interesting 6 pick as well. Looking like a cap can is indeed going to come out for vertical there.
Who can?
Cap can.
Cap can. Cap
That's
can,
just like
John.
too easy.
I mean, it is, but it's the go-to. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where when you do see a cap can, it almost has to be said. And, you know, especially for Oxygen and what they've brought to the table in the history of this squad and what they've been bringing recently, they've been liking to change things up a bit. Flip the script, one would say, and this is something that definitely brings that to the table. You know, we never really see this operator, and that's mostly because he really is an ace up the sleeve kind of thing. You kind of bring him out one time or twice, slap some of these things up around the map, and the first time that someone gets blown up or they see one, they now have to check every single door frame throughout the entire map. It actually delays a lot more time than one would think it would, mostly because, well, it's usually the one door frame that you don't check is when you lose half of your HP.
It's looking like there's going to be some bit of an extended upstairs room here for OXG as well. You've got at least one of the Capcan traps being deployed on the second floor. And not, you know, that's not even mentioning the castle barricades that are currently going down for the support as well. So a little bit trickier of a setup for OXG than what we were seeing out of Mirage. This is what we were talking about earlier about how there's a second way to play into this site. And that's exactly what OXG is going to bring out here for the first round of defense.
It's just kind of their own style of what we've called for such a long time now, the SSG roam, right? The mute jammers, Mozzie as well as Vigil, just to go on the extended roam, really delay a lot of time. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, it seems like, every single time that we see it. There's multiple ways that you can handle this. You either go for the clear, try and force them downstairs, or hopefully run them into a counter angle and get some kills, or just try and force your way into sight and worry about what can possibly happen on flank. As for Mirage, it seems like they want to spearhead this top floor, and honestly, I cannot fault them for that. As for this obviously being the half round, we just switched sides. Actually, a big thing happening on that first half. If you guys weren't aware, Oxygen actually had a 70% win rate for their offensive rounds, whereas for Mirage's defense, an 87.5% win rate. So effectively, their best sides being played out up until this half.
Time to see if that stat line will hold true, or if maybe there's still some life to be brought up from Mirage's own attacking side. And it's going to start out pretty well, loading with a nice find as Laxing tries to get a tad aggressive there against the window inside of CCTV. Does not pan out for OXG, though, is instead Mirage going to get that opening kill, bringing us down to a 5v4. That's not the end of the aggressive games that we're seeing played out by Oxygen, and once again, not the end of an unfortunate story for them either. Benji gets yet another pick here to open things up against OXG. They're going to fall to 3 players. Yogg was also out and about, but from what we can see, he's going to fall back, as there's not really any capability for him to do much, considering the huge risk that now comes into play with that.
Well, Mirage have done it, Blue. They're able to get the top clear, force them into Benji and Garage, and not only that, but they get 2 members of Oxygen on the roam clear. OXG don't get that much in return. Some damage onto loading in Benji, and finally a pickup from Fox and an off angle at the bottom of main, but this is still well within Mirage's right to take this round, especially with loading on the Jackal. They'll still be able to get some insight as to where these remaining members are, although Oxygen still have some opportunities here to find some frags. Foxe looking for one inside of Moto, but they're going to have to wait a while longer. Mirage waiting this out down to the wire here as they'll stun out one. Benji gets 1, Benji gets 2, Dream cleans up the last, and Mirage with a fantastic clear take round 7 on this basement offense.
Fox outplaying himself a little bit there at the end, thinks he can run past the flashbang to avoid it, but ultimately just ends up being fully obscured. It does not leave him with any vision to try and find a safe hiding space, ultimately dying to the blue player behind him there. So a good start for Mirage on their attack, mainly due to the over-aggression we see from OXG and the very well-prepared strategy that Mirage brings to the table to deal with a lot of that, especially when it comes to those aggressive swings towards the windows that we saw at least 2 players from Oxygen fail to pull off in that early round there. It does seem, though, that OXG have confidence in this hold, so we're going to see them go right back towards it. The Capcan not going to be making a reappearance. That immediately gets flipped over towards the Legion, but the castle's still here, so there's definitely still some possibility for OXG to get a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, similar value here coming out of the Legion, but obviously going to be executed in kind of a different way. These don't obviously have to be dedicated towards doors, so that's going to help out a lot. You can put them in some different areas that, you know, Mirage aren't essentially going to know where they're going to be, right? When you know a Capcan's on the field, okay, I just got to check every single door frame. That's really about it, unless, you know, the man's a mad lad and he throws one in a window or something like that. But with Legion, you can put them anywhere. Windowsills, top of the bar, right at the bottom of a hatch, anywhere that they're able to at least have a couple of pixels to sit on top of. So that could help them in the way of slowing down Mirage, especially for this top clear, and make a couple of these gunfights a little easier. Just as a reminder, Legion takes away a lot of the functionality of you as a player when you step on one of his mines. You can no longer sprint, you can no longer plant, so there's a lot of different things about it, including that sound cue that they get when you step on one.
I was going to take out one of the early drones being pushed in through Garage. This is a fall back for a moment. This is a bit scared of an immediate reaction against him, but not going to see that so fast from Benji. He's also well trained in this, not going to over-aggress himself and make the same mistake we had come out from OXG in the last round here. Impact out from Yogg. I believe might have been to deal with the drone, but it's definitely not going to fulfill that task. Because either way, Mirage will be able to move in towards blue and very quickly descend into the basement as well. Hopefully the call's been made, because if not, Kino's gonna get walked up on. So unfortunate though, as Loading accidentally takes the head off his teammate, thinking it's an opponent. Loading though doesn't seem to care. He is frying it out left and right. 2 more kills up on the board for him. Vertical does respond due to an unprotected wall going into blue, and that brings us down to a 2v3. Mirage still with the edge though, and a lot of control towards the site. That's not even mentioning the flank from Quartz right now, as he walks right up, dispatches a vertical for free, and Yogg can't get anything done. Mirage are definitely back in fighting shape on this attacking side.
Oxygen just got thrown in the spin cycle right there. Every single avenue that they go to, a Mirage member is bearing down on top of them, able to find the frags. And Loading, let's just call it a triple kill for him there. He found his frags inside of that round, and although, you know, we did get the TK, he still ends up winning the round, so it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Big plays here for Mirage, and I love the forceful look straight in through Secret. As for Oxygen, no longer going to the basement, and you can't exactly blame them. The rush strategy working out for Mirage. There's a little insult to injury, but nothing that they can't fix by going to another site. It's CCTV now for them.
Oh, we do see those first 2 rounds utilized by the folks over on Oxygen to try and play around the basement strat a little bit. Probably going to be falling back to more of the stuff they know for a fact has worked in the past, though, considering they have now tied things up. They've lost the advantage they went into this half with. It's time to focus up here and try to close things down on the side that we believe to be advantaged, but obviously is not showing itself to be entirely true by the way that this map has played out so far. Stats don't always tell the full story, especially on a specific team versus team matchup. So OXG falling back to the upstairs hold here. Once again, no surprises for me, at least, on the operator picks. Foxay, we've already seen him and quite a few other members of OXG drift towards the Legion from time to time, so not going to be too far out there to have that incorporated into the build for this one. And save from that, you've got plenty of delay utility lined up across the team to try and stop the push into this very claustrophobic site.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I don't hate it. The thing about Legion nowadays is he's kind of easy to work in, but his application isn't as solid as it once was because of the info gain that he used to have at his disposal. He was just such an insane operator. There was never a bad time to bring him at all. Obviously, sometimes you want some different utility on the defenses, but for Oxygen here, there's not necessarily something that slots in where you're like, oh, this lineup is just 10 times better without Legion. And honestly, they can do stuff like this. Foxay abusing the impacts to deal some damage to Nyx right through the holes that they're making with the torch, and this is actually already going to complicate things. They'll get the mute jammer off, which means they'll be able to at least abuse the exothermics here of Dream, and they already attempted one, but we already saw the burn here from Foxay, so we're starting to see why they have the Legion along for the ride.
I think he had the second one placed somewhere else, actually, if that was correct.
Oh.
It also might have just been... All right, that impact's going to go out, and it might have been successful.
It didn't get it.
Nope, didn't get it. It's still going to be there, so Dream has this activation ready to go. And it should go off without a hitch this time. No further impacts to be deployed. Foxay will not have to worry a lot more about the general aggression that's going to be coming from this direction, as he doesn't have a massive wall blocking the way. That does, of course, delete the rest of the hard breach utility on Dream. However, Nyx still has options if they want to open up access to construction or anywhere else on this map where they feel they need it.
Yeah, that's mostly going to be centralized around the garage area. And yes, actually, if you look through the walls and see the silhouettes, you can see Nyx doing his best torch lines on the garage panels down low as they're beginning to get this job done, as they need to start pressuring out the Oxygen member inside of Rafters. This is a huge piece to trying to get a default plant down, and that's why we see them starting on this now. Vertical taking a lot of damage, but what isn't ready for the counter angle here from Dream. That's going to be a big first blood onto one of the mainstays for Oxygen.
Dream waltzes in, the electrics will give off a signal to Kino upstairs. He knows it's a play. What is this aggression? Kino gets the first kill. Over onto the shotty for a second. What a play from Kino. Huge risk involved, but for now, it's worked out. They've got a 4v3. Here's the problem, though. He's locked in a corner, so it's an easy trade for Mirage. Nyx runs right up on his back and takes him down, and that evens us up. Was this heads-up play enough now for Oxygen to waste out the rest of the time with their 3 remaining players? That's going to be the big question.
You know, John, I would apologize, but I don't think I can after that. I've never seen something like that from a smoke player in Raptors in my life. Absurd situation now for Mirage, but they still have a chance here. They have Raptors, and they have the case. Well, at least at the feet of Quartz as of right now. Looking for the frags, but it doesn't seem like anyone is aware that they need to put this case down. They're starting to lose members. They're pushing forward. They're looking for the frags, but they can't find them. 2 big kills from Oxygen. It's down to Benji on minimal time. He knows one's inside of Cash, runs in with the pistol, can't take it to Kaid. It's a bounce back and forth across the green box. All the mechanical skill in the world can't save him from the second member coming in, though, as Foxay will clean it up with the T95.
Needless to say, obviously some crazy action at the end there, but Kino gets the highlight by far out of that round. The leaping shot from over the catwalk in Garage to completely surprise the 2-man push coming in from the garage panels. Kills one of them on the way down after having to readjust his aim from his initial target as well, and then has the time to switch over to the M59. He get a quick pump into the second player to take that control. While yes, he gets traded out, he causes a massive like 20 to 30 second delay in the overall take from Mirage, and he evens out the team on overall player count too. So really nice stuff there coming in from, once again, the newer member of OXG.
And you know, as much as we can just say, you know, oh, Kino, that was so crazy. I can't believe you do that. Well, I mean, can you necessarily blame him? You know, he starts losing members down low as we begin to dissect this, right? He loses vertical on yellow. He's really the only bastion of hope that's inside of Garage to hold on to that any longer. And, well, Kino's been here a few times, folks. I mean, the guy's a professional player, for God's sakes. He knows what's going to happen to him within the next 30 seconds. They're going to throw a bunch of stuff at him, he's not going to be able to see, and he's probably going to die. So instead of that happening, Aegis goes for the high-risk, high-reward play and just hops the balcony. The last thing any Mirage member thought was going to happen, to the point where Capitao didn't even realize it had happened until his friend was dead and Smoke was standing on the floor on the same level that he was and had to start trying to fight him. Obviously, we saw how that went down, shotgun play there, and Kino able to walk away with 2 big frags that completely turns that round on its head for Oxygen. Fantastic stuff from him, and overall, what a round, especially when it came to the garage plays.
All right, so the time has started ticking yet again. OXG finally reclaiming the lead after a risky few opening rounds here, specifically in the basement, do not pan out for them. Nice correction is picked up, though, on their 3rd site, and now we're going to rotate over towards the gym here for this next defense. Interesting to note that we do not have the Frost pick coming into play here for OXG. Instead, we've got Goyo in the mix on Foxay there. So looking for a different bit of delay utility. Mixed with a slight angle through the drone hull there, trying to see if he can get some early damage onto specifically Kino, and it looks like he did get a shot or 2 off, but ultimately nothing to write home about, as it's less than a quarter of his overall HP.
Well, calm before the storm here, as Mirage are just getting things set up, mostly focused around Jacuzzi. What we were talking about before previously has happened as well. The Thatcher out onto the field now, as we'll have Thermite and Ace. Ace for the very first time now being piloted by Nyx, so we'll see if they get any traction out of this. Obviously still have plenty of hard destruction to be able to break down multiple walls throughout this entire site, and specifically the bathroom wall. This is going to make things quite complicated, especially for Kino's sake. Mirage starting to pick up some frags across the board, as well as Laxing will get taken down. Mirage coiling around this site effectively as of right now, especially with the downstairs pressure that they're able to procure. Dream with one inside of sight. Nyx hops inside of the bathroom, and Nitro Cell out. Dream will catch it though, staying on top of those aim labs practices, loading, curling in from construction. This is looking like a Mirage round all over the board, as we still have a minute on the board, but that doesn't matter when it comes down to this execute. It's vertical inside of a 1v3, as he'll find his first point of contacts. Nyx will nip it in the bud, and Mirage stay on the field.
These unexpected pushes are really catching OXG off guard, and they're not really coming off of a whole lot. You know, it's just 1 to 2 kills, and then all of a sudden it seems like there's a gaping hole in the defense that Mirage really don't mind testing constantly, and are pushing past that completely overwhelming Oxygen from time to time, as they don't really seem to have a good, I guess we could call it like a containment protocol set up for trying to work with a lessened player count there. We saw that happen on at least one of the basement attacks, and I think we just saw it happen again right there on the previous rounds. So going back to the basement is going to be a little bit risky here for OXG, considering the problems that they've already been facing over the previous rounds. Now, that is to say they've played a much more aggressive strategy in the past, and we can tell already from the operator lineups that they're going to go back to that normal turtle. So hopefully just in that, things will look a little bit better for OXG on this round.
Well, looks like Oxygen wants to make the most out of Vertical's pulse pick as well. Triple Nitro Cell here, and part with the Goyo shields, so make this a pretty utility-heavy round for the basement. More than likely going to be the turtle setup that we're more used to, as Oxygen's roam games just were simply not working out for them. Obviously, Mirage showing us a bit of a different look here, but this is going to be easily accessible. They can't necessarily deny a hatch, because loading, obviously, has the EMPs to be able to remove anything, so that's why we're not going to see any of that. This round is going to be extremely dependent on what picks are possible for Oxygen early on here. Obviously, not being able to deny hatches and walls and things along those lines can make things extremely problematic. That's more than likely why we see the Nitro Cells coming out, especially with Vert on the pulse. They want to have early insight as to what Mirage is doing across the board and try and get those early picks.
Let's see how Mirage are going to approach this first minute or so. They go off of history, they will expect, obviously, that bit more of aggressive play from OXG, but like I was talking about before, assuming that they got a good lock on the operators here, which, well, they should have, then they're going to know pretty quickly that they're not going to have to worry about any of that outer site pressure. So they can shift pretty quickly through most of the first floor here and begin focusing on opening up all the top-down angles they may need to go for an arsenal attack, assuming they're going that direction, and conversely, obviously, whatever they might need to go for the church play. Still some aggression coming out, though, once again, by those staircases is really all they'll be restricted to, though. Yogg, you can see, just trying to go for a couple pre-fires there. Quite obviously not going to be met with too much success, and after giving away his position, he'll fall back quite promptly. Right now, Mirage is taking things nice and easy with the control they've already been able to gather for themselves. So as that time continues to roll down and the hatches open up Once again, Mirage is getting that much closer to the time they need to be able to work themselves in, or at least start putting the pressure back down onto the basement hold itself here. OXG not obviously having to take any direct contact against the Mirage push just as of yet, but that should be changing over the next few moments with quite literally zero aggression coming out from Oxygen to try and slow things down on the transition, but that does mean they've been able to save all their utility for the late round as well. Foxy chucking out that nice Nitro versus Quartz and taking him down, giving OXG the early advantage. It might not stay that way for very long, however. Already a lot of hard destruction opening up access to Church. So the two players from OXG on the inside going to get tested relatively quickly.
Oh, John, a brawl is surely a brew as these walls start to fall around Church. Some counter angles to assist Oxygen here as we have one man manning the Kool-Aid wall or Ash Rush or whatever you guys want to call it. Have that singular punch hole here for Foxy, which could find him some frags here if it does go unchecked. This is something that we see happen quite often, especially in this exact spot. Benji could obviously try and get forceful here. He will go for it, gets lit up. They obviously know the Church players there now. Benji will get one onto the pulse. Not able to find any luck on the deployable shield player just yet. It's going to be Kino. He ends up getting taken down by Benji as well. Mirage so strong inside of Church. Oxygen not able to stem them off. It's going to be Laxing to try and slow this down, but he can't get the Echo drone over in time. This means the plant goes down and Mirage have Overwatch.
We are going to see one Echo drone pop go off, but it doesn't matter. Dream, while still stunned out, gets the pick. Laxing completes his lurk up the hallway, but Breast that's just before Nyx peeks out to immediately shut him down after he picks up a kill. Once again, the gunfighting capability of Mirage, especially when it comes to pushing into the site, shows up to be far superior for against OXG here, as they're able to take the lead away once again, and this time it's up on 2 match point.
Okay, well, timeout for Oxygen here, as Mirage have ran things back, and not only ran it back, but also taken the lead for the very first time here on Clubhouses. The scoreline currently sits 6-5. Mirage have an opportunity to claim 3 points if they can win this round. I've already really enjoyed the adaptations that we've seen from them so far throughout this map, John, especially on this offensive side. It seems like this was the time for them to get the motor running. The Thatcher Ace Thermite here, especially making things so difficult for Oxygen to try and slow them down. They're getting every single wall open. There's just too much to worry about from the site players.
There is some hope for the Oxygen fans out there at home right now to try to take this to OT. CCTV was a site where they found success earlier in this half due to some great delay that was coming out from Foxy on the impacts there, as well as the rest of the team performing admirably. And of course, the Kino drop from above. We can't forget that either.
Oh my God.
Which, to be fair to OXG, that was like a very make or break play. They still went on a 3v3, which was kind of dodgy for them in the late round, but this is going to be a tough one. However, there is some success in the past that they can lean off of here in order to try to take them into OT and activate those 3 bonus rounds, not only giving them a guaranteed 1 point here should they still end up losing an OT, but also as well reigniting that potential for an outright win.
Okay, so Mirage are going to go back to what they were running before. We're moving away from the Thatcher. We saw the change up in what Nyx was doing, no longer running the ACs back on the Maverick. Loading, obviously locking in the Thatcher, but 6 picking away from that towards the Capital. Really like this pickup here. Obviously no Wamai being ran given the ban, so it makes it very easy to expose that, as that is going to be the only counter to those tactical crossbow bolts. So all of those will hit their mark. We'll see if Loading can be effective with them this time around, as well. What we saw inside of that previous round was the Kino special. This time though, Mirage have to try and combat that. They did a very good job of clearing out the initial areas, especially down low and getting the wall open, but then when it came to Garage, that's where all of the problems started to show.
Well, let's see if Mirage can get past those issues. Or excuse me, if Oxygen can get past those issues and trigger OT, or if Mirage is going to be able to push themselves forward and take control of yet another round in order to close this out at round number 12. The final round of regulation getting started here incredibly quickly. We're also probably going to see just as quick of an attempt to open up that balcony wall very quickly. See the Maverick holes working in. They have not dealt with the mute jammer as of yet. There we go. They do already have the charge on the wall. Both the impacts are going to roll out. Sorry if I was quiet there for a second. I had to listen, and it looks like the second one is successful. That deals with the initial hard breach charge coming out for the attacker. Now, Dream does have another one, and the issue for Foxy, he does not have another impact. Looking at the rest of the defender count, they also don't have any additional impacts to use here, so more than likely that wall once again going to be open with the use of the second charge.
John, this goes one level deeper as well, actually, here. The Kaid coming out from Laxing, he's continually putting these Electro Claws inside the corner here and keeping the wall sealed, but we're actually going to have Mirage with the answer to that, luckily enough. So they'll get rid of the Electro Claw and end up getting the wall open, eventually working their way on over to Garage. Now, if you guys remember the analysis for this round, this is where things could get to be quite hairy, especially for Kino. I guarantee you we don't see him, you know, go full off the top rope WWE on this one,
You
but
say that.
you know, we've seen crazier things in the past.
Yeah, we'll see if Kino tries to get that aggressive again. Like Stoke said, more than likely not going to end up happening. One, because it's expected, and two, well, yeah, it's because it's expected. So I'd be very surprised if someone isn't watching that this time around here. Vertical going to be the first target for Mirage, though, as the rest of this squad begins to move in. That's once again an advantage over to our attackers. Kino, at the same time, going to start to delay some of the push, specifically from the doorway. Foxit comes in for the assist on the alternate side of the balcony, but you've got to remember, there's a Capitao in play. He's going to get burned out of position. The same problem exists for Kino. He tries to get an aggro. It works out as he gets himself one kill. He can't drift too close to those flames, or he'll go down. Ultimately dies anyway on the next peak, and Oxygen are just falling to pieces here. Another member goes down. It's all on Laxing in the 1v4 situation here. He's the only one that can stave off the end of this game and take the team into OT, but it's not looking good, and that's to say the least of it. About to have the full weight of Mirage bearing down on him. Obviously, a big focus going to come onto the plant. Laxing knows this. He gets aggressive success on the opening kill. Success on the second. Over to the pistol and the knife as well to try to close it out, but it can't be done. Instead, Mirage come out on top, and they take the map 7-5.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for one of the most competitive stages we have ever had inside of the NAL? Stage 2 continues to ramp up as a fresh-faced Mirage, with Quartz coming in for hot and cold, takes down Stage 1's #1 team and the likes of Oxygen. And what a game it was. Mirage winning Clubhouse in regulation 7-5.
And this is to consider we just saw Oxygen have a great amount of success the other day against another newly renewed team. So once again, just like stage 1, we have no idea what our leaderboard is going to be looking like at the end of the stage. All we know is it's going to be a fun ride to witness it all play out here and see who comes out the top and be the best of the best in NA, or our middle of the year stage.
Hey, extremely exciting stuff right around the corner, my friend. And this is only the first week as well. We've only had Playday 1 and 2. We got Playday 3 and 4 next week, and then we go back to our regular schedule of 1 day a week. But I really like starting off the stages like this. This is just so very exciting. Really getting a solid insight as to how these teams have changed things up between the stages, and maybe some thoughts as to what happened at 6 Invitational as well.
Definitely some exciting stuff to come out. To talk about more of the specifics that happened on the inside of that matchup there. Mirage as well, bringing us some really impressive stuff, specifically when it came to their attacks. Clubhouse is not an easy map to negotiate any sort of stability, especially when it comes to things like that basement or the last minute attack that goes into cash as well. So really promising stuff. They're coming out from Mirage to be able to take down OXG so well on so many different rounds. Either way, that's going to do it for myself and Stokes here for the week. We're going to send it back down to Veli on the panel one final time to break down our last match.
And I don't even know what to make of it. Thank you, Blue and Stokes. Great commentary, by the way. But Mirage, we said they were looking good, but now, fellas, they're looking great. Beating out the #1 team from stage 1. Oxygen cannot pull through. And Quartz and the boys, hey, they're looking better than ever, man.
That game wasn't really supposed to go that way, but it's been the same story so far for both Oxygen and Mirage through their first 2 games. Incredibly close contests, both of them making just the right amount of smart plays and mistakes in tandem to keep games close. And it's Mirage's second super close game against a team that we know as being the Big 4 in NA, and this time with a win and it being over OXG, that's incredibly crucial to their stage.
Veli, this game was what I was talking about. I mean, well played by Mirage to beat out Oxygen, a team that we were building up as probably the best team, or at least a top 2 team in this stage. They fall now to Mirage, and yeah, this is really, I think, showing the pinnacle of Mirage. I think this is probably a mistake in retrospect from Oxygen to take them to this map. There were some other options for them, but they go to Mirage's maybe their best map, and they suffer because of it.
You know, Jesse, I don't know what to say. Maybe it's the flag that Quartz is carrying around, but this team, they just have this swagger, and it's not brand new. This is something they even had during stage 1. Even when we saw Hanko go to Space Station Gaming, okay, let's be honest. Let's be completely honest for a second. We all thought a little bit inside, man, Hanko is good. How is Mirage going to look? But we knew Quartz was good, and he showed up in such a big way. But Jacob, there's one thing you want to talk about, and it has to do with my man Capital. Tell me all about him.
Yeah, that last round was a really big reason for why you ban a Capital on Clubhouse.
Yes.
It's intended almost solely for acquiring Raptors control if you're on the attack, because there will be utility posted upstairs. There will be, well, my discs or Jaeger ADS, and sometimes one, if not 2 people trying to watch as many angles downstairs as possible. It's also kind of a death trap for defenders to kind of sit in, so what's a really good way to get them out of a death trap? How about cooking them alive? And that's why Capital was banned up until stage 2 very, very consistently, especially in North America. He's the best operator for that exact job, and he wasn't banned here, and there was nothing that OXG could do to work around that. So I don't want to say that's the entire reason why OXG lost this one, but they very well could have forced overtime. There were some things that they were doing correctly, and it really just came down to the operator ban phase a whole hour before we realized what mistake was going to cost them.
Well, Capital was big on the last round. You saw Kino on Raptors. He was led to have to make a hero play in order to win it out for Oxygen, or help them win it out, right? But also, Jesse, talking about Kino and unexpected plays. We all remember him jumping down the rafter, going crazy for that double kill. And it seemed like the theme of this game was star players just make things happen.
Yeah, I think the unexpected plays really did define this map. You think about Clubhouse, definitely more as a defender-sided affair, right? This one really did lean towards attackers, and I think that is just because on both teams, or they really did want to get aggressive and get in there when their opponents weren't expecting it, right? They didn't necessarily always have advantages in terms of utility or players, but they just wanted to get in and surprise people. Obviously, on defense, that Kino jump off the rafters fits the description, certainly. But I also thought, I mean, Mirage's first gym push came at a really weird time, really early on in the round when it wasn't being expected. Loading, walking down blue during that second drone denial church hold, that was one that I think that was totally catching off guard OXG. So they really didn't expect that one. And then for Oxygen's sake themselves, I mean, you know, Fox running in through the platform wall. Who expects stuff like this? It's really the plays that the enemy team were not anticipating that worked so well. And, you know, when you're so familiar with a map like these two teams are, I really think that just opens it up so much more. And these team players made the plays exactly when they needed to.
I wish the people at home heard us just yelling and going crazy when Fox A ran right into CCTV.
I wish we had our own stream for our reactions while games happen, because we're in the back watching, trying to come up with points, and then Kino does stuff like that, and we're going crazy.
Yeah,
Production, can we get our own stream? That'd be cool.
Hopefully, but you know what? Coming up right now, we actually have an interview with Jesse's boy, the one and only Quartz. I'm ready to talk to him. Bring him up on screen, production. Quartz, if you can hear me.
Yeah,
you
I
guys
can.
just look with the flag repping. Yes. Quartz, you guys just beat the stage 1 #1 team in Oxygen, and this was a big showing from you guys. What are your initial reactions? How do you feel, man?
I mean, it feels good. Obviously, like, we came here today and the team was really confident about the game. We're coming in here like confident every week, but we knew we had like what it takes to beat them, and we came here today. We were happy with the map pool, we're happy with the map choice, and we're coming here and then we won, so we're just really happy.
Yeah, so I want to hear it coming from your mouth, right? We talk a lot about it because, you know, narratives and storylines, it's true. Hanko, you filled in that role. What were, was there any pressure on your end? Were there any expectations, or did you just come in here with a clear mind and just wanted to play it your way to make a statement for Mirage and the rest of the NAL?
I mean, obviously there's a lot of pressure, right? Hanko played really well last stage, but obviously, like, I know how I play, and I'm confident in my play style, so, like, even, like, though there's a lot of pressure, I want to, like, impose, like, my own play style and then show that I can hang at this level, and then I can do just as good, if not even better, than what he did. So, yeah.
All right. Coming up next week on the 22nd, you guys are facing off against Beast Coast, a team that looked really good play day one, iffy today. What is the game plan for that team? Who are you looking out for personally?
The standout player on the team is probably Sippin, in my opinion. I don't think like we're really stressed. I don't think we're really like too stressed about like that team. Obviously, they got smoked today by TSM, and we're looking to do the same to them. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Quartz, I just want to say I'm really happy that I got to really speak to you for the first time like this. I was watching your highlights all last year. You're insane, man. You are so good at this game.
You.
I wish you the most success. I wish success for your team as well. I love Mirage. Go ahead and celebrate with the boys tonight. You guys deserve it. And I want to thank you for taking your time to do this interview with me.
Thank you, Veli. I wish you a good afternoon.
Oh, anytime, man. You too. Rep that flag well. Jesse's happy for you.
Yeah.